Okay, welcome to another episode of Carnegie Story. And in this episode, for the first time, I have a guest. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Mark Macleod joining me from the Birthplace from Dunfermline. How's it going, Mark?
Very good, Dan. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the invitation. It's lovely to speak to you.
Yes, I always enjoy speaking to you. So I can't wait to get into this. So first tell me exactly where you are right now.
Well, at the moment, I'm in the office part of the Andrew Carnegie Birthplace Museum, which is based in Dunfermline in the Kingdom of Fife in Scotland. And what's interesting about this room is when Louise Carnegie, who was Andrew's widow, built this memorial hall as a testimony and a legacy for Andrew's Carnegie's work, she wanted the curator / manager, the person in charge, to live on premises. So the reason we have a little fireplace behind me and this room here, and we've got another room next door, this was where that person lived. So they lived on site, very close to all of the treasures that she bestowed upon the museum at that point in 1928. So it's a lovely place to work.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it must be. So I want to ask you a little bit about Dunfermline in general.
Mm-hmm.
If I walked down the high street, would most people know who Andrew Carnegie was? Today, how well do they know him?
It's a great question. It's maybe one we need a little bit of research in. We do know that the majority of the visitors who come to see us are from outside of Dunfermline, so people who sort of walk in to visit the museum and so on. When we have events where we have expert speakers come in to talk about Andrew Carnegie or connections thereof, that's when local people start to come in, or local families come to some of our activities. We speak to them and it's like, oh yes, I came here as a child, but I've not been here since. And here's my granddaughter. I wanted to show her who Carnegie was. So we know about that audience, and that is, it's great to see them. And, we want them to come back as often as possible. There's lots to see here. But along the high street, Dunfermline itself, there's lots of things named after Carnegie because he gifted the town the park. So we call it the Glen, but the maps call it Pittencrieff Park. And it is literally just to the side of our museum. And everybody knows, everybody in the town, I would say, knows that park was bought by Andrew Carnegie and immediately gifted over to the town. In 1902, 1903 is when he gifted it. But along with the Carnegie Primary School, we've got a Carnegie Hall, we have the Carnegie Baths. So people probably have that connection. But to scratch that surface, I think would be intriguing to know, well, I wonder if we can give them even more of that story. And that's part of what we see our mission at the museum here is to do. So they're familiar with the name, but they may not be familiar with the man.
Okay, let me ask you, can you describe him in 3 words? How would you describe Andrew Carnegie?
It's a great question. I love these questions. I'm trying to think of what's the word I'm looking for. Industrious, I think, is certainly a man who's living in the Victoria era in the States, where electricity is just coming in and you've got all these other kind of aids, but he's still writing with pencils or fountain pens. But the amount of words he's written, as you well know, having read most of them, that strikes me as incredible. To see somebody, he sets up a funding scheme for libraries, which had never been done before. All of these elements that he does, he tends to be the first person I'm aware of doing it. So I think that level of industry must require working excessively long time and hours. So incredible that he got that done. So industrious. Another word I would associate with him is, and I'm just basing this on, he was a very diminutive man at 5'3.5" but the shots of him, who he spoke to, who his inner circle was, his outer circle, and his world, I feel he must have been gregarious or energetic to be able to maintain that level of correspondence with so many different people, from presidents and kings through to his workers, his daily the people he would see on a regular basis. So I find that, energetic. He must have been hugely energetic with that. I think a final word is humble. He's a man who came from. We tell the story of his extreme poverty that the family had here due to the potato famine in Scotland, due to hugely problematic economic conditions, which led to his father not being able to grow his business as a small businessman in the cottage industry he was trying to do with weaving, and his mother potting meats, selling sweets, fixing shoes. But as you know, when you read his autobiography, it was that level of abject poverty. And he talks, when he gets his first job, how much he earns. He continues to talk about money. And to me, I think he valued money greatly for having none of it through to having all of it. I think it did have that element of, humility because of how he had experienced life early on as a wee boy.
Wow, I love those three words so much. Industry, humility, and energetic.
Yeah.
You'll be pleased to know, I mean, maybe you already know this, but the 3 words he chose to describe himself, you had one of them. Industry is one of his.
I did not know.
The 3 words that he chose to describe himself are honesty, industry, and concentration.
Okay, yeah.
Those are the 3 words he chose to describe himself. So exciting.
See, every day's a school day, Tan. That's me learned something today already.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Carnegie family of trusts? Because I know you're parts of it, and I would argue the Birthplace Museum is the most important. But yeah, tell me, what is the Carnegie family of trusts?
I wouldn't disagree with you there, given that myself and Jennifer have responsibility for looking after it, but also sharing its story with the world. But that does include the 22 trusts, which they're listed all throughout our website as well. And these are trusts set up by Andrew Carnegie himself as a way of giving away his fortune, and they reflect his values, they reflect his ambitions, they reflect his background. And although, ironically, I guess, maybe it's not ironic, but unusually, it's his wife who set up the museum here. It's his wife who purchased the Birthplace as a gift to Andrew Carnegie for his 60th birthday in 1895. But because we are managed by an endowment which he gave to Dunfermline through the Carnegie Dunfermline Trust, we do form part of that, even although Louise sort of set us and founded us. We are now part of the bigger family. So it includes the Carnegie Corporation of New York, which was the world's biggest trust when it was set up in 1911, and continues to have an ambition, a very big ambition. And actually, we've just got a new president there in Dr. Louise Richardson. And it includes the Carnegie Mellon University. It includes the many hero funds that still exist across various different countries. It includes the Peace Palace. So it taps into those areas of Andrew Carnegie's beliefs and values, and so they do meet regularly, or they're in touch with each other very regularly. So something like the Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy is given. It's an award given to modern day philanthropists, and that is sat upon by, the decision is made by the various trusts over the 2 years where it's not happening. And there was an award ceremony last October 2022 in New York, organized by the Carnegie Corporation of New York. And that's one of the kind of outputs of all the family getting together to talk about continuing the legacy and maintaining connections and contacts. And if anyone ever comes from Pittsburgh, from one of these organizations, or New York, we'd love to show them the Birthplace, show them where it started, try to convey what our vision is and our mission is about Andrew Carnegie's legacy, and also talk about Louise, because she's the one who gifted us the objects here that we can share with people in Dunfermline, and also much wider outside Dunfermline too.
Okay, before we finish, I'd like to ask you, he had a lot of messages, he wrote a lot of words. Do you have a favorite Carnegie saying, something that he said that you think about a lot?
There are so many. That's the beauty of the man, the genius of the man. This week it was International Women's Day, so he sent out the importance of two women in his life, his mother and his wife. He often spoke highly of his mother, to the point where, it's her decision to go to America. She had two twin sisters living in Allegheny, Pittsburgh at the time. And so she, I think, was a huge driving force for him, and his admiration for her. But the quote I would like to share, I've got lots of them, but the one I would like to share is one that we have up on the wall of the museum. And this is a great one if you're in a boring meeting, or if you're struggling perhaps with internal politics, or you're just looking for a little bit of genius from a man who's lived. He wrote, "As I grow older, I pay less attention to what men say. I just watch what they do." And it's that kind of, okay, that's fine. You don't agree with me. I fully understand it. That's certainly how I've used it recently. I don't agree with you. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it all pans out. But it's that kind of, I suppose it's over time. It's wisdom. I've lived a life. I've seen lots of talk. I've heard lots of talk, but I just watch and see what people do these days.
Great quote. I know it, but it's not on my list, but I'm going to add it to my favorite list.
What's your favorite one? Am I allowed to ask?
Oh, I would always begin from the beginning. I would say it's either the one in the playground, in the park. You should know it. All is well since all grows better.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That was the first thing. It was almost, it was magical and universal spirit channeled to me, because the first I drove, I told you, but I haven't told the viewers here. I did a drive. I visited Dunfermline for the first time last year. I drove from Manchester overnight to Dunfermline through the night, and I arrived. I've never been, so I just typed in Dunfermline to the map alone, and where it happened to take me, I drove in, and it just took me right to the car park of the Pit and Creef. So I got out, and then as soon as I walked in, I see my favorite quote, "All is well since all grows better," on the arch of the playground. And it was just like it was all just meant for me alone. It was magical. So yeah, all is well since all grows better. And then, of course, "Thine own reproach alone do fear," which was his favorite quote, which was Andrew Carnegie's favorite quote, which he took from Robert Burns.
Awesome.